What is up, my veggies? My name is VTR, and welcome back to another movie review. And today, we're going to be finally getting back to our Disney Channel movie reviews. Even though that, I just heard my dog outside, probably barking at something in the woods. But back to what I was saying. We're reviewing Johnny Tsunami today. I watched it a while ago. I wasn't going to rewatch it in preparation for this video, just because I didn't really enjoy it that much, but it wasn't absolutely terrible. Yes, this angle is weird, and I wasn't intending on this angle. My phone is dead, and I really need, it needs a charge, and so this is why I'm leaning on the chair like this and everything. So Johnny Tsunami. I have a lot of thoughts when it comes to this film. It's definitely not the worst one, I promise you that. And from what I've heard, this one is one on a lot of people's radar, or is one they consider very nostalgic for them. And for me, with growing up with Disney Channel, sort of, or just seeing the ones later on down the road, this one I've never actually watched. If I did, it didn't leave an impact on me, because, one, I don't remember ever watching it. For the most part, it's an alright thing, I guess. It's passable. It's a fish out of water story. This kid who's used to surfing and is one of the best surfers from where he lives and is related to this big kahuna or whatever you want. That's one of the big guy who's like really famous for doing certain things on surfing or something like that. And this guy, he moves to where it's always snowy, and he becomes a really good snowboarder, and he gets into some rivalry with these kids, and he's like, I want to be friends with these guys over here, the less popular, but also these guys are this girl I like, and there's like, oh, I have to fit in at this new school. It's stuff that's pretty generic, and for the most part, there's not anything special, but I can't say I didn't. It had my attention most of the time, except for maybe the first few minutes. Like, I was like, okay, this is boring, characters are lame, boring characters, get off my screen, I don't want you here, leave. That's how I was with some of this movie, because I was sitting there like, leave, get off the screen. And the girl character, like the love interest, I guess you could say, really just rubbed me the wrong way. And what do I mean by that? She rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, she was dull and boring. And she was so generic. Like, I sat there watching this movie and I'm like, do we really need a love interest in this story? I thought the other story we already had was good enough for a film like this, but apparently it's not good enough, because I sit there with this movie and I'm like thinking, a bunch of the movie was very generic, and I can't say it was great, or I can't really say it was terrible, but there's a lot where I'm just sitting here thinking, gosh, I could be watching something way better. And that's the feeling this movie gives me. I think, what could I be watching that's better than this? And the thing is, these movies have potential to be good. Some of these have surprised me over the ones I've watched. And the fact is, these aren't terrible. These movies can be very surprising. Smart House, I thought was going to be the dumbest thing ever put on the face of the earth. That's an exaggeration, but I thought it was going to be pretty dumb, and it was alright. This, though, is just generic city. You want a very generic movie? This is one of those. And, like, there's some jokes that really don't hit for me. And, like, it's just... I never put the whole, it's for kids, ball. I never put that out there, because if something's made for kids, it can still be good. There are still things for little kids that I can still enjoy. It's just the fact that this existing is complete and utter garbage. Not garbage, it's just the fact that this movie's just the way it's formatted, and the jokes and the characters and just everything. See, I don't remember a character's name except for Johnny. I don't remember. There's also this other little side plot, kind of, where it's like his dad isn't like really into him wanting to be a surfer and all that stuff, and he's like doesn't really like his father, but like the son takes a lot of liking towards the grandfather, and then one part of the movie they even run away somehow from where they are all the way back to Hawaii or wherever they are. How do two kids do that? I don't care about spoiling this movie. Does anyone really care about getting a spoiler for Johnny Tsunami? This movie was generic city. One of the most generic movies I've seen in a long time. The thing is, people consider this part a good movie. And thing is, I don't know if it's good or not. Because one, it's really not my cup of tea, really, with this movie. Because one, it's just pretty generic. Not very many likable characters. And just nothing in this movie stands out from other things we've seen, especially around the same time period where this movie came out. Because, and yes, these Disney Channel movies have done some very bizarre concepts. Can of Worms, the one about Almost 13 or something like that, the one where he turns into a merman, which is also was a strange concept, but surprisingly, some things, the weirdness of the fact that stuff like Xenon can exist, and stuff like Under Wraps, and those could be really generic movies, and they do fall into a little bit, but the fact is, this is just so generic, and I know I keep on repeating myself, but there's nothing really else to throw at this movie besides the fact that it was so freaking generic. And I'm not trying to insult the Disney Channel movies, because there can be some creative liberties taken with some of these movies. But this one is not one of them. There's no risk. There's nothing new that we haven't seen before. It just feels so generic. And and the thing is, even though this movie came out in, I believe, the 90s, I'm pretty sure the 90s was a weird time from what I've been told. I didn't live through the 90s, but I lived through the early 2000s where there was still some 90s lingering. There's just so much about this movie that I just really it didn't sit well with me just because of the genericness of it. Probably one of the most generic movies I've ever seen. And that necessarily wouldn't be a quote-unquote bad thing, because some movies I've seen that are generic, I rather enjoy. But it's just the fact that it's not done to a good extent, and nothing new is done with it, or nothing interesting. It's just these same tropes we see all the time. And yes, maybe this is one of the earlier versions of the tropes. I don't know. I seriously doubt it, but it's just the fact that sitting here, watching that movie, I was literally in this chair watching this movie when I watched it for the first time, and I was like, really, but I'm gonna have to give this movie a 2 out of 5 rating. That's the best I can give it. And I can't even say because it's bad, it's just because it's really, really generic. But with that all being said, I do want to give a bit of an update on this. It's a little bit more easier for me to do these reviews now, because instead of me having to figure out ways to watch the movies, since now I have Disney Plus, I can watch them on there. Yeah, they'll still, for right now though, if I do any between now and the 1st of February, I'm going to have to find another way to watch them, because right now I'm not paying on my Disney Plus because reasons, but I'm paying, restating it in February. But the thing is, it's just the fact that this is a very generic film, and the fact though that I'm bringing back these in the channel reviews, so glad to be back to them. I'm going to get a Scooby-Doo review up soon. I think my next one is Ghoul School, which I'll get up very soon of that. But that's all I've said this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Link in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!